Good. Go
Here we
ahead.
go. Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome. This is Sarah. I'll let her introduce herself in a few minutes, but it's great to be here live on Substack. So it's Wednesday morning, and my name is Michelle Ray, and my Substack is called States of Matter. So I write sort of memoir type content, and I'm now moving into a little bit more of writing coach style on my memoir, or excuse me, on my Substack. And I lately have been really interested in talking to other writers because I am publishing my memoir. So I'm self-publishing. I decided to go that route, and I've gotten very interested in different journeys like that writers take to get their work published. This is my third or fourth sort of co-hosting interview situation. So I'm very happy to have Sarah here and happy to welcome Emily and whoever else is joining. So as we talk, of course, um, Emily and whoever else joins us can feel free to jump in, ask questions, and we will definitely answer the questions. So I will just introduce Sarah very quickly and then I'll let her talk. So Sarah and I actually met in real life, if that's possible.
It's a
So
rare occurrence.
I met Sarah in at a Writing Heights conference, or actually it was more of like a writing retreat in Colorado. So Writing Heights Writers Association is association that in Colorado for writers, and Sarah's actually the director. So I met her there, and we struck up a good writerly friendship. And then I spotted her on Substack. So I thought, I mean, I know she's a very like well published writer, and she is a novelist. Well, obviously a novelist, a poet, and a blogger. So I thought she'd be a great person for us to talk to. So I'll just let you jump in and like introduce yourself a little bit more. I know, um, we have a lot of questions we can get to, but I'll let you talk for a while.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for just having me on. It's kind of nice to it's nice to see you again in person. I enjoyed that time. We had a little retreat up in Grand Lake, and I remember you
Yes.
ran a lot, and I was like, man, I should run more.
It was so
Watching you
pretty.
go out, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a
It
good
was so
idea.
nice. I
I like
know. It was beautiful.
Yeah, it was a beautiful. It was kind of during in the burn area, which I didn't realize, but it was still a nice
Yeah.
time. Yeah, so I guess I'm Sarah Reichert. I'm a writer. I'm the director of Writing Heights, as Michelle said. Our little organization is dedicated to supporting writers, beginning writers through those that are already published, with classes, with roundtables or places where we can get together and talk and vent and ask each other questions and exchange information about writing, whether it's how we write a ekphrastic poem, or how do I get my book published, or should I be indie or traditional. So we get together and we talk about those things. We also host classes and get really great instructors in to talk about everything from the legalities of signing contracts, if you get to that point, or just how to plot your story out if you're having that
Mhm.
struggle. So I sort of fell into the director's role. I wasn't expecting it. I was the youth coordinator, so I'm used to working with kids. And now all of a sudden I have to manage a lot of adults. But luckily, writers often are very whimsical, so we get along okay.
Yeah.
But the organization was at a point about a year ago where it was either going to completely flop because the previous owner had some major life changes and she wasn't able to carry it anymore, or somebody had to take it over. So I stepped in, and it's been interesting. It's been a learning, growing experience because I'm not really a business oriented type of person, but I'm working on it. Um, I've learned a lot about taxes that I didn't
That's
know
useful.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I guess because it is a small business, though we don't really make a profit. So I'm just blabbering, but that's what we do. And in my personal writing life, I'm a novelist, primarily romance, but I've also written a radio cast for science fiction, several like speculative fiction, short stories, and then poetry as well. So
Mhm.
I just can't pick one thing. I don't have a lane to stay in.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of writers are like that. Sorry, I'm letting my dog in. He's just
No,
kind
that's
of
all right.
barking and ugh, dogs. I wish you
Right?
could just like freeze frame them when you have your.
I have a 100-pound pit bull rescue mix, and any minute she's going to come up and knock my tripod over, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure that
Yeah,
happens.
that's what they
Yeah.
do.
Well, so the last writer I had on here, Lee Bacon, he is a young adult author, and he and I talked a lot about sort of like the circuitous paths writers often take to a publishing career.
Yeah,
And I noticed that you also don't have like a writing degree. I mean, maybe you have a advanced degree, but your BA is in anthropology, right?
yeah, that's right.
So I'm wondering how you became a writer, and maybe just talk a little bit about like what the path was, and how you got to the point of publishing your first book.
Yeah, I think I became a writer because I was such a voracious reader when I was younger, and I read I read a lot of romance, which looking back at now at 13, 15-year-old Sarah, that, I also read a lot of fantasy and science fiction, but it got to the point where I sort of just intuitively wanted to write my own stories, and so
Hmm.
I would write them for fun, all the way through from high school into college. But my older sister, Heather, was actually the one that wanted to be a writer, and for some
Hmm.
reason, and I think it has to do with like in our family, if we went out to eat, you couldn't order the same thing as somebody else. You had to try something different. And so I feel like internally I was like, well, Heather already called writer, so I can't be a writer. So I'll just do something else. Um, and I was going to school actually for aviation. I was going to be a pilot, and I am a pilot. But then I got to a point where I had to decide if I wanted to take on that kind of responsibility of being a commercial pilot or do something else. And I chose something else. And so I went into anthropology, and I got really interested in culture and how people survive and how people have evolved, and how belief systems shape us as individuals. And so I was taking these classes and really enjoying, studying world religions and studying women. Like I have a minor in feminist studies and a minor in religious studies, and just studying how people interact and how we survive and how we don't, and all the while just writing my little romance stuff on the side for fun, because it was
Hmm.
kind of a release and an escape. And then, yeah, anyone who's an anthropologist knows, unless you're getting your doctorate, there's not a lot of work out there. So I did a variety of jobs, document processing, all that stuff outside of college. And then when I became a mom, it oddly had a little bit more time. Not that being a mom isn't super busy, you're always on, but there would be nap times, or at night, and I needed something for myself. And I found that I was going back to my writing.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, so when my oldest daughter, who's now 18, uh, I don't know how that happened because I'm obviously still 26. Um,
You look it.
um, but when she was a baby, I breastfed, and so there was a lot of rocking chair time, and I'd contemplate like these story ideas, and that's where my first novel came from. Was just sitting there in that quiet space, kind of not able to do anything else, and so that's where Fixing Destiny, my first novel, started. And I just started writing, and I didn't think about it. I just wrote, and pretty soon it turned into three novels, and
Wow.
yeah, and that's kind of how I got into it. And along the way, I realized I didn't know really much about writing a novel. I didn't understand how to plot or to structure it, and so I joined actually Writing Heights, which was Northern Colorado writers at the time, and
Hmm.
took some classes, and they really helped me understand the finer points of it. It wasn't just telling a story; that if you
Hmm.
wanted readers to be able to follow it and really get into it, that uh, form kind of mattered. So
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah, and then I published those three novels and a couple of poetry anthologies that were through my blog. So I
Mhm.
helped other authors get a publishing credit by publishing their stories or their
Oh, that's
poetry.
great.
And then a few years after that, I was at a fan expo, which is kind of like a Comic Con sort of thing down in Denver,
Mhm,
and I met Bernadette Marie, who's a really prolific romance author and
mhm,
publisher, and she agreed to take a look at my newer series, and she liked it,
mhm.
and so then I got traditionally published as well. So
Oh, okay. So your first series was a self-published.
yep,
Oh, okay.
and
So you've
I
done
did
both.
query
That's
it,
good.
yeah,
Mhm.
but it's a weird it's a weird series. It's paranormal romance, and it was kind of hard to sell to a publisher, I think, at the
Yeah.
time.
I mean and that was a while ago as well. So I
Hmm.
feel like paranormal romance and the genre blends are more kind of normal now, I guess.
Right. So
But
at the
yeah,
time, people were like, nobody wants to read about ghost sex.
I do.
I wanted to write about it. So
Oh my God. Well, I just want to welcome Emmett, and Emmett thinks that is cool, and I agree. And Marlena, she's my bud from Out Your Damn Mind, and Tamra and Steve. I thank you so much for joining us. So
I'm reading the comments and
you said
giggling.
a lot. You have a lot going on. You're a very interesting person, but I was interested in um, anthropology. Like I know you said it's not useful as a career, but was must have been so useful as a writer,
It
right?
is
Like
actually, yeah. I feel like more people should probably study anthropology or at least sociology to kind of understand how culture can shape us and make our decisions for us in a lot of cases, and how it's not really a real thing. It's just sort of this cloud that surrounds us, and anyway,
yeah,
understanding that can sometimes help you break out of it or to see outside of it. And so yeah, it's not something that usually is a direct career path. I know some people will work as consultants, especially if you're doing business overseas or with a different country. It can be very helpful to understand how different people's cultures, dictate how
mhm,
they run projects and whatnot.
right,
But yeah, I think what has really done is it's helped me understand humans. And when you understand humans a little bit better, you understand their behavior. And for a writer, that's integral for your characters, right?
yeah,
Um, you're understanding that the reason that that person, you know, maybe gave up their religion is because they were something in their past had knocked horns or something. You're
yeah.
able to delve deeper into why people do what they do, and it is part of psychology as well, I guess. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I would think it just gives you such a rich pool of information to draw from,
yes,
right?
exactly.
Because it sounds like really like anthropology is also studying patterns, and with characters and with people, like there's so many sort of invisible patterns that drive our lives that, we don't see. And oftentimes that's the point of the book, right? Like your main
Exactly.
character figuring out something that was
Right. Oh, why
invisible to
do I
their
do this?
life. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is so known now, besides ghost sex, which is just a side
It's
hustle.
just a side. And even that book, I was like, wow, she's had to deal with the death of her parents.
Yeah, yeah, you have
Yeah.
a lot. So while we're talking about your books, because I know there's a lot of other things to talk about, but I was kind of curious about. So I know your first series won some awards. Is that correct?
Yeah. So my first series with Five Prints Publishing, this Sweet Valley series, and it's set
Mhm.
up in my home state of Wyoming, um, which again was kind of a study in culture, the difference between a rural community versus an urban community, and I tried to focus on the positive parts, the community being very tight knit, and helpful, and keeping each other safe, and beyond all the nosiness that goes on in a
Yeah,
small town.
that
So yes,
happens.
Raising Al was nominated for the Colorado Book Awards, and it also won a Pencraft Award. That's the first book in that series. Um, though I will say, like, feedback wise, it's not as lighthearted and fluffy maybe as some romance. It's there's some darker elements in it, domestic abuse, and um, getting over that fear, and just remembering how to live your own life. And it was a cool project I say, but the series, when I released it, I ended up donating, I think, 3 or 4 of the first month's proceeds to the safe house in Laramie, Wyoming, for domestic abuse victims. So
Oh, wow.
it was a
That's
way to kind of pay back the community, and not that I made a lot, so it wasn't like a huge donation, but it was what I could do at the time. Yeah, and then a couple of the other books in that series, I think Composing Laney got the Literary Titan Award, and so it did fairly well. And I'm not a fan of saying that because it won an award, it was a great book, but it was nice to be recognized, and hopefully it meant that it was work that was good enough that people got something out of it.
Yeah, I know. And earlier we talked about sort of like that classic tension between writing for writing's sake, like writing as an art form versus
Yeah,
writing for commercial purposes. And so I imagine like when awards start coming into play, that definitely like complicates things. Because it is nice to have the validation.
right.
But just because one book has that little seal or whatever on the front that designates it as award winning, does that
Right.
mean it's more valuable than your other writing to
I
you
think
or to anyone, right? The reader. It's interesting what we kind of let the gatekeepers sort of tell us. But so
right. And
maybe let's talk a little bit about that, like with the tension. Like, how do you balance the tension between, writing for art and writing for a living?
right. It's a hard balance because so much of what sells and what is popular in the market, yeah, is based on trend and is based on kind of like culture, this ethereal thing that nobody really understands where it's going to go next, what's going to sell next. And it's very difficult to try to decipher that as a writer. So I
Mhm.
always tell almost every student I have that you can't write to a trend. You have to write a story that means something to you. And that at the end of the day, if all you do is write a story that you love with characters you love, and you put all this excitement and passion into this project, that even if it doesn't sell, you have created something that was honest and true, and meant something to you. And I realize you don't get paid for that at all, but I think selling yourself out in order to bump up your likes on social media, or um, try to ride a wave of a trend, is not fulfilling in a lasting way. And then you're always going to be chasing that next thing. I don't make enough money as a writer, and not even as the owner of a writing organization, to like support myself. So I have day jobs in addition to that. But I think on a I don't know, I'm probably like going way off tangent, but I think
It's okay.
uh, when you can kind of save your art for something you believe in, and you're not trying to constantly sell it, it it becomes something more beautiful and integral, not to get woo woo, but like to
Mhm.
your soul. It's something that is a basis and an anchor, um, because it's yours. Whether or not anybody else wants to read it, you have created it, and you're not doing it for anyone else. Um, yeah, so I don't know. Do I want my books to sell millions and to have like a movie made? Yeah, that'd be really cool. But if it doesn't ever happen, I'm still happy with what I've done, and I still want to write more. Um,
Yeah.
it is difficult though, because the whole entire world, well, social media, will tell you, that your worth as a writer, the worth of your work is based on how many views you're getting,
That is, yeah.
how many likes you have, how many, what the analytics are for who's checking out your stuff. But at the end of the day, you have to decide what really matters to you, and know that your worth is anchored deeper, that it isn't dependent on all those little thumbs up, or those um I don't know, views. which is
Yeah.
hard, right? Because we're
Yeah.
not often taught that really all
Yeah.
of that stuff sort of just magical technology out there, and it's not real. If it all ended tomorrow,
It's not. Yeah.
yeah,
It's not. Yeah. It's kind of just keeps us hooked in a way. And
it
maybe
does.
if that motivates, if that's a helping way, like it motivates you to write. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but I think, yeah, if you
Right.
start depending on it or feeling like that's the indicator of success, I think
Yes.
that's a problem. And I agree that just by virtue of writing something and completing it, like you're developing not just skills, because it takes a lot. You know, I think writing
Right.
a book is like running a marathon. Like there's only a certain percentage of the the world, the people that actually do something so
Vast.
arduous and something that takes so much persistence and
Yes.
consideration and not, I mean, skill, but also just really it's persistence, right? And just not giving up. And but apart from that, it is like it's almost like something out there is fully formed, like it's your baby, like
Yes.
you've birthed something into the world that is fully formed.
Right.
Someone else can read it and understand something universal, right? And
Right.
that to me, that's beautiful. Like
I think
just
that's
sort of,
one of the reasons, right, that we write,
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, and but it's sometimes though, in order for you to get that validation, you want to hear people, you want to hear about people reading it, but
Yes. Yeah,
you
that's
know,
true too. I mean, I'd like to say that I'm so noble that I don't like read reviews or or worry when I see that one of my books only sold 4 copies. Um, 'Cause it is sort of like, "Oh, well, I thought it was cool." It
yeah,
i it is nice to know that there are people out there that are getting something out of your,
yeah, you want to
writing,
feel
and
like
even
you,
if it's just inspiration to write their own book or
yeah,
yeah.
totally. Well, I wanted to actually kind of transition into something because I feel like we're kind of on the topic, but you recently went to AWP,
Yes.
right? And yeah, I
Mhm.
read that's AWP. And if you don't know, listeners, it's Association of Writers and Writing Program. So it's an association, obviously, and they support writers, they support writing programs. And they have a big conference every year, and a bajillion people go,
It's
and
so many.
gets so overwhelming. I've only been once, but it's also, it can be really useful. There are classes and
Yes.
it's a big networking event. So it can be super useful. But I read your blog and that you talked about taking a class about what was the class? Oh, I have it written down here. Using I can't remember what it is, but it was basically um, using your art as protest.
Yeah, like,
You've written
writing
a
is,
Yeah,
resistance and poetry is
yeah,
resistance, I think, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that sounds like up your alley. Maybe you could talk a little
Yeah,
bit.
well, and I didn't used to be quite so in the vein of, um, contemplating writing as a way to speak to the world, as a way to find community or build community in the world, until recent events. We don't need to get into that, but I
Yeah.
feel like um, it was a really important class for me to take because not only am I interested to know like how do I bring my voice out into the world and my
Mhm.
story and stories that are important to me, but how do I encourage others and help them as a writing coach, as a owner of an organization that teaches, how do I help others find their voice, their authenticity, and get that information out into the world? So it was a really interesting class. It was educational in that we live in a pretty small community in Fort Collins, and it's
Mhm.
pretty white. There's not like a lot of diversity here, and
Yeah.
so it was really good to just sit and listen to a panel and ask them honest questions about how to bring this idea of being authentic without fear into your writing, and where to put it where it can do the most good. And so we had
Mhm.
some great speakers who were um, MFA professors and worked with youth in the community. And since I have a passion for working with young writers, it was really
Mhm.
good to listen to them on how to create a safe space where they can play with their ideas, get their ideas out, and how they can work with each other to ask the right kind of questions,
Mhm.
to, to really delve deep, and so that we're seeing each other through our writing.
Mhm.
And one of the best things that writing can do, especially fiction writing, um, is develop in the reader a sense of empathy, a sense of understanding where someone else is coming from, or at least trying to.
Yeah.
And so even in your genre fiction, not just aside from like essays or poetry, you can express certain ideas that hopefully will lead the reader to think, oh man, that must have felt terrible, or I can't believe they had to go through all of that. And then start to thinking about, the culture and what shapes that and what changes that. And so, yeah, it was valuable for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds like it. I just wanted to quickly welcome Lynn.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just
It's
been
okay.
blabbering.
Oh, no, no, it's fine. I was just waiting for your natural pause to say hi to everyone again. So, Lynn and I are good Substack friends. She writes an kind of a memoir type blog. And Marlana said, sounds like I should study, or maybe I naturally do. I think she's referring to anthropology.
Yes,
So
that
I
is
agree with
fascinating.
that. Out my damn mind. You definitely have your own anthropological kind of study going on with the Inner Room. She does a lot of really great interviews.
Yeah,
So I was listening to your answer about like how do we not necessarily be political, but how do we really like get our voices out there to be like a help in the world instead
yes,
of
yeah.
just,
Not
something
just
that's
not to be
irrelevant.
divisive, but to help to understand each other, help to
Yeah.
understand what's going on, and yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually wrote an article about that in my Substack. And I kind of came to the conclusion that it is sort of like what you said. It's about um, writing, like being completely authentically you and
hmm,
writing that thing that only you can write. And
yes,
I mean, if it does, if it is sort of like more explicitly political, great. But I think also just being unafraid to use your voice
right.
is also a form of kind of low key protest, I guess.
Right. Well, and in a
Because
good way, right? Because it's
yeah,
not. I think our survival, and this is anthropological as well, has always been in having strong community.
yeah,
Humans would not have made it if we didn't have tribes and people to support us, and you know, 10 people watching the baby so that everybody can get something done. And sometimes I fear that America has become very well, we're based in rugged individualism,
yeah,
and we can do it ourselves, which I do too much. I am terrible about, like, don't worry about it, I'll handle it.
yeah. You
Um,
are. You're one
when
of those like
I could
overachieving
ask,
types.
I could ask for help. But yeah, so writing from an authentic place helps us really see and understand each other, and hopefully build a strong community where we all care about each other and take care of each
Yeah.
other.
And I think I was writing that article in sort of in the context of um, don't be afraid to just write what is in your on your mind, especially even though there are a lot of other things going on. Like don't feel
Right.
guilty about, writing about your dog when, we're in a war or whatever, because
Right.
everyone's art can be like it has its own little niche in a way, and it can be super helpful for anyone. Like people out there, it could be motivating them, it could be making them feel better. It's
Right. Well, and
so
yeah, and simple little things, like simple. Dogs aren't simple, they're
no,
obnoxious. We
no,
both know.
but you know what I mean, just
but
something
but
that's
it,
not
it gives
directly
us
related.
glimpses of life outside that big cloud of everything going on, that at the base, we're still human, and we're still doing our little things, and we're letting the dog out 20 times a day, and we're
Yeah,
yeah, like you said, I think that does bring joy. And we need joy. So you should just write whatever
yeah,
helps us
sorry, I'm
connect.
snapping at my dog who's about to start barking. Dummy.
I had my cat walk by, and I thought he was going to knock everything over.
Oh, all right. Well, I thought maybe I'd to pivot a little bit, and I was wondering about you said you mentioned that you have this passion for youth, like helping young people write.
Mhm.
And I've been a teacher, for 30 years, and I also
God
have
bless
that
you.
passion. I'm a recovering teacher at the moment. But I find that it's there's such a I feel like we're at such a crossroads right now with young people in writing, because of AI
Yeah.
And how do you kind of work with kids with writing? Like, what's your experience been, and how do you see these young writers coming up in the world of
Um,
writing?
that's a great question. AI is kind of well, we could talk for hours on my
Yeah,
opinions on AI. Um, but when in terms of younger writers, um, our classes usually start with just letting them talk to each other, letting them
yeah,
catch up with one another, um, in an environment that's not about homework, it's not about grades, it's not about achieving some level or doing something right. It's about creating the space where we're here to play, we're
yeah.
here to experiment, and we're here to see what works and see what doesn't.
Mhm.
And so we do a lot of exercises that are a little quirky. Like we do blackout poetry a lot. We'll do ekphrastic poetry. Um, Even my kids that are more screenwriters than poets will participate, which is good
Mhm.
because I tell them poetry is like the way to, you can use that in your prose to
Oh
be
yeah, so
a
helpful.
better writer, right?
Yeah.
And so we actually put out an anthology 2 years ago with our youth writers. It's called Raised
Oh, cool.
Voices, and it was really a great project. Two of the poets got together and they wrote alternating stanzas to same poems, like a conversation. It was very interesting, and I think that there are still kids out there that are looking to find ways to really express themselves,
Mhm.
um, in a way that they create themselves, that isn't driven by technology, that isn't even online, that they expose to their friends or their, that social environment there. But creating sort of this third space for kids that's not work and that's not school, or not school, I should say, and not home, where they can just sort of explore who they are, what they think about things, and validating. Because I get a lot of like emotional poetry about relationships at their age. We're like in our high school era. Emotional poetry about parents and that dynamic, and letting them create without having to share is really important. And
Yeah,
I've been very impressed with the kids that have been in the program, not like on a level of their geniuses. They're very smart, all of them, but
yeah,
they're also they're very kind. We've had younger members come in that I I accepted a 10-year-old, which was like the youngest ever, but which was a special case. And every single one of the teens was so supportive and so kind, and they gave her lots of space to kind of grow and figure out what her voice was like. And um, yeah, it gives me hope. It really gives me hope. I
yeah,
think it's out there.
yeah. That's great, and I'm glad that you're experiencing that, and hopefully you're passing that on to to
I'm
other
trying.
people, and our audience here is hearing it, because I do think there's a little bit of cynicism about young people coming up and how they're outsourcing their brains, and in which
Yeah,
I'm sure a lot of them are, but um they're that age, that high school age, there's so much natural energy and natural
yeah,
conflict, and this is like an amazing time to write.
it is.
I think
And I have folders of poetry from back then, and okay, it's terrible, but it's so emotive. It's so like raw, and I think that this is the time in their development that their brains are not fully formed, but they're also um, not put into a box yet, and so their ability to have that kind of creativity is massive. Yeah, so
yeah,
it's great,
and
and I always encourage them to read. It's hard because they have so many assignments and whatnot, but being able to read a lot, and not too many people read, and that's a kind of a big
yeah,
problem.
it
Yeah,
is. It is. There are some kids out there that are reading, but
yeah.
you know, um, well, I'm glad you're out there helping, and more power to you. Hopefully you can get. So is this a yearly publication that you have for them, or
It'll probably
just?
be bi-yearly. I think right
Yeah,
now we're working on what the theme of this year's will be. Our group's
yeah,
a little bit smaller than it was last time, so
yeah,
trying to figure out the logistics of that.
yeah. You should publish it on Substack,
I
so you
should.
can get some readers. Good. Okay. Well, let's like kind of pivot back to writing. because I think there are a lot of writers on Substack, and a lot of
Yeah.
people who are dealing with the kind of conflicts that we've already discussed. Like, they're on Substack because they're trying to find an audience for their writing. Maybe they're trying to publish, they're trying to, do all this without kind of giving up.
Yes.
and
It's tough.
um and without just feeling like too much comparison, right? Like there's a
Right.
way that, especially on Substack and all social media, where it's very easy to compare yourself to other people, and
Yes,
oh,
for
they
sure.
have this many subs and they've published and I haven't. And so how how do you deal with that? Like, and what kind of advice might you give to people who, are just starting out on their publishing journey?
That's a great question. I know uh, for writers, building up that platform is what everybody tells you. You need a platform. You need a social presence, and it's true because modern day publishing, even for big top five publishers, they want to know that you have a connection to readers. You have a
Your
connection
readers.
out there. Um, but it can be very overwhelming. There's a lot of different ways to put yourself out there. There are a lot of different formats. You've got your Instagram, your Facebook, your Meta,
Mhm.
Blue Sky, Substack, LinkedIn. There's all kinds, or just having your own blog. And it used to be that having a blog was like a definite way to get readers or to gain a base. And Substack, I think, is like a modern way to kind of do that, and it's more of a literary community builder, I
Mhm.
feel like. Um, so my advice when you're getting started and you're trying to figure out how to put yourself out there without completely expending yourself is to just
Mhm.
pick two things that you feel comfortable on that resonate with you, and that don't take up too much of your time. And then consistency is the only thing. I know one of the questions was like, that I have a blog, and I've blogged for I don't know how long, a long time. I think I have like 400 blogs. Like I have so much to say, but it was because I made myself write every week, and that was in a lot of ways more for myself. At first, it began like I need to build a platform, so I need to have a consistent blog. But then it became something that was like my chance once a week to say something that didn't necessarily have to do with writing. It could just be about life, and knowing that not everybody was going to read that, and it didn't need to be read to exist and to feel good. Um, but yeah, I forgot what the question was.
Oh
But
no, just I think
yeah,
you're answering it, just what advice would you give people who are
yeah,
starting
and
out?
and
And
to not get, I know it's hard not to, but when I see somebody who's new to writing and she's got like 50 likes on her Instagram reel and she's always putting out these wonderful, fun reels, and then I feel bad because I don't advertise my stuff enough. I also think, well, like that has never been my top priority, and that's not a space I feel comfortable in. I
Mhm.
rarely do reels of myself. Like this is a big deal
Yeah. Yeah.
to be on camera. Um, so honoring what's natural to you and what feels good to you, so that at the end of the day you're not burnt out, trying to shout your name out into the abyss, and so that you can still have creative energy to spend. Because at the heart of it, you're not. Well, maybe you are, but you're not writing to become famous. You're writing because you can't not write. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good point. I feel like most people, well, anyone who really has that at the center, of their motivation, I think understands, would understand your advice, right? And I mean, I am on Substack quite a bit, and I see people come out, so strong, and they get thousands of subscribers, and
yeah,
within weeks or months, and like clockwork, I see them just kind of drop off, or I see them coming on. Oh, I need a break, because it's
yeah,
just there's a burnout associated, with
right.
just putting
Constantly
yourself
being
out
in that.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, so there has to be a happy medium, and I've tried to have, just to kind of grow organically, and
yeah,
use and be on Substack as much as I want, as much as I'm enjoying it,
right.
because it
And
is
your
a great
writing is
place to.
brilliant, so I mean, like that doesn't hurt you either.
Yeah, I mean, just getting out there, just a place to put your writing, like we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier, how you, it's like it's a market, right? Like it's like Etsy. I have my little booth, my little crocheted writing, and it's
Homemade.
something, yeah, it's something that's yours, and it can be really fun, and really
Yeah.
satisfying. But I think if you can release yourself from the expectation of having to be a success, or define your
Right.
success, on your own terms, like you said,
Right.
and stick to that, and I think you'll just have a much happier
Happier
writing
time.
life.
Right. And nobody looks back on their deathbed and was like, I should have posted more. Like
Yeah,
in the grand scheme of things, what really matters is your happiness with your work and the joy you find in it. And like you said, growing your Substack organically, then the kinds of people that are going to start interacting are the people that you know you want a lasting community with,
yeah,
that feel that it's more foundational and meaningful. I think that
yeah,
way.
it is, because I had one post go, like, sort of, not post, but it was a note. It went a little bit viral, like maybe 300 or 400 likes,
And
and
that's
just,
like a dopamine hit, right?
yeah, it was, and I got a lot of subs I got like over 100 subscribers from
Fantastic.
that. Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is great. But then as I started doing my posting, posting my articles, the next few weeks, I just noticed, like, people were just dropping off, right? Because they didn't really know my writing. As soon
Right.
as they started getting it in their inbox, they're like, who's this? I'm done. So, I mean, there may
Yeah.
be an initial gain, but it's a blip, right?
Right.
Like, I
And
think
and
it's,
understanding how much that world fluctuates and you can't predict it. So
yeah,
it's kind of like, well, then just don't worry about it because it's always going to change. You might as well
yeah,
just do what you like to do.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But okay, so we've been going for about 45 minutes. I would encourage anyone that's here that has any questions that they can pop them in the chat. But I thought
But no
maybe
math.
yeah, what's that?
I said, but
Don't
no math.
no math. Yeah, just questions about writing, about anthropology,
Yeah.
about the organization. I mean, Sarah's done a lot. So my next question, as we're kind of winding down, I think, is, you do have a pretty prolific body of work. I mean, I feel like you have like 6 or 8 novels or something.
Yeah.
And writing, like, you own and run the organization, and you work with the kids, and you have kids, and you have a side
Mhm.
job. Like, how do you make time to write? Like, what is your sort of like writing life
Oh,
schedule look
yeah.
like?
It is difficult and it is harder since I took over the business. But I'm trying to think. My days are kind of so chaotic that like I try to organize them and I have a little board with check marks. Try to keep myself on task. But my daughter got kind of sick this last she was very sick this last fall, and I had to drop a lot of things because, as you know, as a mom,
Hmm.
there she's my priority no
Hmm.
matter what. And it sort of made me realize how many things that I take on that I don't necessarily need to. So in terms of my writing, um, I don't write every day. I think it's important that people know that. I know it's kind of a
Yeah,
misnomer that you have to write every day to be a
yeah,
writer, but
yeah,
some days, you know,
yeah,
it's just too much. Um, but I find that if I sign up for well, for one, making sure that I write my blog every week ensures that I'm going to at least write one thing,
yeah,
and then submitting. I have, I think, like a 50 rejection goal. So making sure that I do at least a submission. So that's like poetry or a flash fiction piece, and then picking up new projects. Um, so our publisher is doing like a Christmas town thing. So 9 authors are getting together and all writing Christmas or holiday stories um, for this one town. And
mhm,
so I'm not really a Hallmark kind of writer, but I was like, I'll try it.
yeah,
Um, and it's going to be a little bit subversive, but I think it'll fit in fine. But giving myself little challenges like that really helps. Like, oh, I've never written a short story in horror. Maybe I'll give that a shot. And understanding that no matter what I write, it doesn't have to see the light of day. It doesn't have to become a novel, and that takes so much pressure off. So I will try to, like right now, since I have a novella due in May. I
Mhm.
do have like a word count goal for the week, but I never do a daily word count goal because my days are up and down and
Yeah, that's smart.
right. So if I can get that, like right now, I think it's a 4,000 word a week goal. If I can get that, and if I'm enjoying the story and I'm enjoying what I'm writing, that's not too hard to get usually.
Yeah,
But there are seasons of my life where I'm writing a lot and I'm getting a lot of work out, and then there are seasons where I'm editing or I'm tapering off, and I think that that's a normal rhythm for creative people.
yeah, for sure.
It's like
Yeah,
training for a marathon, right? You can't marathon all the time.
you can.
You
You
shouldn't.
can. I mean, I trained for a marathon for months. I'm going off topic here, but
No, that's
I
okay.
legitimately trained. I had a trainer, I was very official about it. And I ran my marathon in about the time that I said, 5.5 hours, which is under
That's
the
great.
cutoff. So I was happy. And I still ended up in the hospital.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
I got rhabdomyolysis, which is kind of what old people get, like when they fall or whatever.
Oh
It's when
no.
your muscles break down and it goes into your bloodstream. But
Oh god.
anyway, the point is, like, sometimes even when you're really planned and things
Yeah.
things happen, and
And
I
then
think
that's
having
just
realistic goals is
right.
good.
And giving yourself grace when
Yeah,
like you didn't get that writing goal, just being like, you know what, you're human. Congratulations.
yeah,
And you're not gonna always you shouldn't put yourself into that have to perform for my self-worth, right? Like you're worthwhile no matter what. And
yeah,
then if you get
yes,
that word count, fantastic.
yes.
Yeah.
So when you mentioned 50 rejections, is
Yes.
that like a year or?
Yeah, for this time it's year. I did 100 rejections one year with a friend. We partnered up and decided we hold each other accountable. And yeah, it was an instrumental year for my writing growth and also learning how to get rejected and
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about literary magazines, right? That you're, yeah,
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 and contests and whatever
yeah,
I can.
yeah. That's a whole world out there, but I think it does kind of help a writer, thicken their skin, and I also suggest getting out there and reading if you can. Like, so many literary magazines, offer volunteer work as a reader, and that is such a great way to understand. Like, I'm reading for two literary magazines right now, and one of them, Guernica, is kind of a bigger publication. And the people we get submitting to that magazine that we still reject, I mean, we're talking about, well published authors, people with MFAs, people with doctorates, and and it's not about the talent, it's about what's relevant at the moment, and it's just such a small percentage. Like, so Guernica publishes monthly, and they usually only have one, maybe two, um, nonfiction pieces. That's what I read for the nonfiction. So, and we get multiple submissions a day. Like, I'm reading, and we're in June. We're reading June. So, there's just so much out there, but I think having the goal be just submitting or getting rejections is fine, because that's what you can control, right? Not even the rejections. I would say just X number of submissions a year or whatever, because you do learn a lot. And you learn to, like, there's so many magazines out there too. I'm not sure what happened. I can't hear you.
Is that better?
Oh, yeah. What happened?
It might have ran out of battery.
Oh, okay.
Technology. So yeah, like there's a quirky little like horror literary mag that took a short story I never thought anybody would want. But
Yeah.
I threw it out there, and like you said, it's great to see it from your perspective that it isn't necessarily that you're not talented enough or your piece isn't good enough. It's just that sometimes that's not what fits into what they want, and that helps you not take it quite so personally.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I think there's always like a little smart, like, it's like stubbing your toe, right? There's
yeah,
always like that moment where you're like, But then
Right.
after you're just like, okay, I get it.
All right. Well,
And you
yeah.
just move on, right? I
Right.
just
Well, and
like,
when you look at it like I want to get 50 rejections and you make that rejection the goal. Granted, you could get a lot of easy rejections if you just like didn't submit properly.
yeah,
Or you
that's true. Or
right,
if you
but
started with like the Paris review and, you know,
and you sent them a crayon drawing or something.
yeah,
Um, but like valid uh rejections that you actually tried to participate in, it changes your mental state to where you're like, oh yeah, I got another one, so that's one on my list. And then even I joke with the people, I'm doing the 50 rejections with another coworker actually at Writing Heights, and so we always tell each other I got rejected, and then when we get something that submits, we're like, yeah, now I have to go submit one more time for that next rejection.
I know. That's
Yeah,
funny.
so,
That's a great
yeah,
reverse psychology.
psychology.
Yeah. All right. I just wanted to take another little break and look at our audience. So Matt Ray, thanks for joining. And Emmett made a comment here I wanted to read. It's really hard for me to read this.
I know it because it's like white on white for me, and I
I
can't.
need my readers here. So Emmett says, my mission has always been to heal and to help others, to tell the truth. Each day I try my best to do my part. It resonates if it resonates with others. Cool. If not, I still won't quit. Yes.
Good. No, that's great to hear.
Yes,
That's
Emmett.
exactly what I do.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's such an important attitude to have. And it's like, who can stop you if that's your goal? No one,
Right.
you know.
And not everything you write is for everybody, but when it's for somebody and it makes a difference, like there's nothing better in the world than, to change somebody's life for the positive or to help them feel not so alone. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
That's
it really is.
that's the point, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Glad to have learned the word. I'm not sure what word we're talking about here. I'm kind of behind with
Oh,
my
sorry.
my
Yeah.
notes here. All right,
It's
no,
because
it's
I
okay.
talk a lot.
No,
I
no,
don't
it's
get to
okay.
talk to
I need
people.
to be better at looking this. Oh, Emmett says, I wanted to say thank you to both of you. This has been really enjoyable to hear. Oh, thank you, Emmett.
Oh, thanks,
Oh,
Emmett.
and here's Tarot. I'm just recently started subscribing to Tarot. I hope I'm saying your name right. I apologize if I'm not. Um, yeah. Oh, there's Kristen. Welcome, Kristen. And yeah. Okay. So thank you to everyone and Joe, who's joining us. Oh, wait, one more thing from Emmett. Maybe I'll submit my nonfiction. Nonfiction is my thing, JK, but maybe you'll never know.
If it's a
Still,
blind submission, she might not know.
yeah, submit away. You
You
never
could just
know.
put like, this is Emmett somewhere just
Yeah,
touching.
just like work it into the text.
This is
But
definitely not by Emmett.
I mean, so if you submit now, like we'll get to it in 7 months. It's
Oh
it's
my
crazy,
gosh.
and that's another thing that's really annoying is that when you submit, sometimes you have to wait so long to.
Sometimes I forgot that I submitted. And
Yeah,
then like 8 months later, they'll be like, congratulations. And I'll be like, oh,
you're like, who's this?
what piece was that?
What planet am I on? I
Right.
know,
Did I submit there?
I
Yeah.
know, it's bad. All right.
But I don't blame them because and I know that like submission fees I've noticed have gone up, which I don't mind paying because it's work. It's work to have to read through all of that. And
Yeah,
yeah,
it is work,
it's
and
time.
it takes a lot of time, and it's. I'm sure most people that are running the literary magazines are doing it voluntary, even the editors,
Sure.
even the people that are spending, like I probably spend maybe 10 hours a week, at most. Um, and if I can't read that week, nobody's going to come after me, with a
Right.
with a timesheet. So but yeah, there are a lot of people doing it for free just because they believe in it. They want to
Right.
have a place for people to publish, and
Exactly.
that's in my goal, in my list of goals for the future. Is I want to have a literary magazine, and my idea is like a literary magazine that only publishes emerging writers. So
Yes. Yeah,
no
because it's
offense to
so
people.
hard.
Yeah, because every magazine, every literary magazine says we published emerging writers, but I mean, yes, they do, but it's still based on quality or what they perceive as
Right.
their type of submission. So I think there's definitely a market for submitting, especially older writers, because I think
Yes.
people my age or older, like we're in another world. Like we don't understand this world of self-publication and
Right. Well, and
so we're like, whoa, I can actually publish my writing. And I think there are a lot of people with voices and things to say that are my age or older that are amazing. Like they have amazing
what's
stories.
tons of experience, right?
Yeah.
And very grounded. I don't know. That's you and I are the era that read and didn't have great internet access till maybe college. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like we're the analog generation that
Yeah.
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 And I
Yeah.
think that there's so many really valid things that we need to listen to from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be, there'll be a backlash. And when there is, we'll be, we'll
We'll
be
be
in,
the ones.
we'll be in demand. I
Yes.
was actually thinking about that, getting a flip phone. I was actually Googling about it. Like,
Yeah, my oldest daughter actually wants a flip phone. She's like, I don't want the smartphone. I just want it for to call. And I was like, the only thing is the maps. I really like having the maps. But
yeah,
yes,
I know it is. It's nice because I started thinking about it. I'm like, but what all about all the times like I just like do some banking when I'm in line, or you know what I mean? Like
that's
it
true.
is very convenient.
It
I'm
is.
sure I would be so mad at myself if I had a flip phone. But
What do you mean I have to order things on my laptop now or something?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one more question, I think, and
Yes.
then we should probably wrap it up. But this might be kind of a long question. So, what I've been noticing lately is so I'm an older writer, like we just said, and I'm kind of, changing my career. I've been a teacher for 30 years and I'm trying to publish. But I started thinking about like, I'm not going for this like major publishing career where I try to make my living as a writer. And I
Hmm.
think there's a lot of people out there that are more in my type of position. Like, how do I still have a fulfilling career as a writer
Right.
if it's a side hustle, right?
Yeah.
So what would you
Um,
say to that?
uh, well, that's a good question. I
I mean, you don't want to relegate it. You don't want to just automatically say, "Oh, it's just going to be a side hustle," because that might be limiting yourself.
right,
But
and I think maybe looking at it like a a portion of your life that sort of infiltrates everything, like especially memoir writing, you're talking about um, concentration on your past and your experiences, but also what that has brought you in the future and how you are living your life because of that. And I think self-publishing is actually really fantastic because in a way it's very freeing for
Mhm.
people. They know now, granted, you have to go about it, and I like to think of it as honoring the art of writing. So of course you're gonna get a good editor and you're gonna make sure that it's a decent quality
Right.
book. But self-publishing is wonderful in that you don't have to wait for somebody to tell you it's good enough or that
Yeah.
people want to read it or we're not, it's financially smart for them to take it on,
Mhm.
because it's not about being financially smart for us in this
Yeah.
position.
Yeah.
It's about exposing that story and about getting it out there so that people can not just connect with you but connect with themselves, start to thinking about their own past. And so I don't know how other people might um, relegate that, how they would be able to say this is something that I want to be as part of my life and part of my story without it taking over and it being like this. Okay, but now I need to make money at it. Um,
Yeah.
maybe it's a matter of how you promote it is more about, like, say you travel a lot, so maybe when you promote it, you're promoting it to like um, people who want to travel or people who are, so you're building organic communities around your story, where it's going to do the most good and help the most people. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's really hard to balance out wanting to be successful, wanting to get it in as many hands as you can because you believe in that story, and not also assigning worth and success to what actually happens. I don't know.
Yeah, it's such a hard balance. So I wanted to read Joe's comment. She said, "Writing is the one place where hard-earned wisdom is honored."
It's
That's
true,
true. And I think
and
they're real. Yeah, go
it's
ahead.
not a quick fix thing.
Yeah,
I mean, AI is trying to make writing a quick fix thing, but
yeah,
the dedication in a real writer and um, it takes work ethic, which is
it does, which a
yeah,
lot of people aren't.
don't quite have.
It's a lot, like, yeah, like you said. But oh, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I noticed on Substack there are definitely like there are a lot of sort of in the middle people or 50 plus
Mhm.
out there writing, and I love that. I love that people are finding their voice and putting themselves out there, because I think
Yeah.
that's another thing that writing takes is just a lot of vulnerability and
Yes.
willingness to expose yourself.
Right.
Like,
It takes bravery.
yeah,
Because we're not taught to be so giving of our tender underbellies, to
yeah,
everyone. But in my experience, and I know we're running out of time, is that when I get to see somebody's vulnerabilities and I get to see what they have been through, it brings me closer to them. And so, yeah, telling those stories is important, and I love to see it because it,
yeah.
it
I
means
do too.
we're trusting each other, and that's really important.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it, and I think it's a great sentiment to end on. I think so. I think we'll wrap it up, but I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you for having
So
me. Yeah.
yeah, so where
Yeah.
can people find your books? Just anywhere that books are
Um,
sold?
you can find them, unfortunately, on Amazon, but you can also find them on bookshop.org. I think those are, the major points. You could also visit me on my website at sarahreichertauthor.com. Um, and I can send you signed copies that way if you're into
Yeah.
that.
Oh, nice. And
um,
is your blog, when you say your blog, is that the blog that's associated with Substack, or are they different?
I usually just take my blog from WordPress and uh,
And put it on.
copy
Okay.
and paste it
Oh,
into
okay, yeah. So it's the
Substack.
same. I mean, that's a
Yeah,
reasonable way to, yeah.
yeah, because I'm
But
lazy.
yeah, so they could go to either place, your Substack or your
Yes.
your
Yeah.
website.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you are in Colorado, you can always join Writing Heights.
Yes.
Go to
And
some
you
of
don't
their,
you don't have to be a member to take our classes. You can just sign up for them,
yeah.
which is kind of nice.
Do you have to live in Colorado to be a member?
No, not at all. We have most of all of our classes are virtual. The only things in person we do right now are write-ins. So like you'd
Yeah,
miss time at a coffee shop with us, but
yeah,
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 so everything's available to anybody.
yeah. And your writing retreats are really great. They're really nice. Kind of
Yeah,
low key way to just go and write and
just have
get
some
work
space,
done, and be around people that are trying to do the same thing.
right? Put up with my cooking.
Yeah, not have to feed your dog or feed your kids.
Yes. So many hours in the day, those things
Yeah.
take. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, I'll just keep reading you. And I
Mhm.
have started one of your books, so I'm going to keep at it. And
The-
it's the literary fiction one.
oh
No
yeah.
Words After I Love You.
That one's a little sad, but
It's
I like
okay.
that one. Yeah.
I can handle it. It's
How
for the
tough.
fuck uppery. Ready for the fuck uppery.
The fuck uppery.
Good opening.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
All
Yeah.
right.
All right. Well, read Sarah and find us both on Substack here. Again, I'm Michelle Ray. My Substack is States of Matter, and Sarah Reichardt is, what's your Substack called?
I think it's just Sarah Reichert, or is it author Sarah Reichert? Maybe. I'm
Yeah.
terrible.
Oh, whatever. We'll
I don't
find
go to
you.
my own Substack.
It's okay. We know you're famous anyway.
But yeah.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
thank you for all you do too with the kids, and I wish you
Yeah.
luck with
Well,
that. So
thank you. I
yeah.
appreciate you bringing other authors on. That's really cool. It's great.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, take care. Thank
All
you,
right.
everyone. Have a
Bye.
great
Thanks, everybody.
day. Bye.